watching Good Afternoon Kentucky with Erica Bivens and T.G. Shock.
Well, it's a story we've been following for the past several days. Kentucky's Hank the horse now back in Kentucky. He's resting and relaxing after his 3-day voyage to Pennsylvania and New York City for the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign.
ABC36's Erica Bivens, of course, traveled exclusively with the nonprofit team for Hank's sake and has a look back at the historic journey for the rescue horse.
I definitely feel like a kid at Christmas.
Sunday morning, Hank the horse and the For Hank's Sake crew hit the road, leaving the Paris farm for a historic journey to New York City for the Salvation Army's Red Kettle campaign. A trip years in the making. The voyage included a stop in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, where owner Tammy Reagan lived until moving to Kentucky in 2018.
To be going back to Hank and I's former hometown, I could barely sleep last night. I felt like Santa Claus was coming.
The roughly 12-hour trip included several checks on Hank, who seemed quite content. The team eventually settling in Hank at Peace Valley Equestrian Center around 10 p.m. Monday morning, Hank hosting his first meet and greet of the day with around 70 children, giving out horsey handshakes and posing for selfies.
We have horses that come to camp, but they are not nearly that big, nor do they wear costumes.
Oh, it was great. It was a cold, blustery day, but it was certainly worth it to get a look at Hank the horse.
Hank's visit even bringing one woman to tears. The second visit of the day, lots of smiles in downtown Doylestown and inside City Hall.
Savannah,
think,
did
Savannah?
you like him?
Yeah.
Say something.
Yeah, what'd you think of Hank?
He was pretty soft.
For some, their first time meeting the Tennessee Walker.
Sounded like a really, it's a beautiful story, a wonderful group that they've started, and I think he's a hero, Mr. Hank.
For others, a reunion.
I was with her when Hank came to Pennsylvania and was with her the first 3 or 4 years of Hank's ventures.
While Jim Salonik says both Reagan and Hank were inexperienced, their growth over the years, remarkable.
It's night and day. He was very wild, very unpredictable, and at his weight, I think he's at 1,700 pounds now. He's very hard to control, but, Tammy stuck with it. I think other people may have given up on him a long time ago, but, she stuck with him, and it's great to see today how far they've both come.
We struggled in our first years, Hank and I did, because he really was not trained. I knew nothing about training a horse.
Reagan says she's proud of how far she and Hank have come in their training in the last 14 years.
My friends from here, and they knew us in our early years together, and they just stood back and kind of giggled a little bit, saying things such as 10 years ago, Hank would not have been able to do that. That hat would have been flung in a mud puddle, the scarf would have been off, the corral would have been torn down. He's a perfect gentleman. That's what one of my friends said, who knew us in our very first days together.
The end to a bittersweet day quickly turning into history in the making Tuesday morning with Hank's arrival in New York City.
So much excitement for a dream coming true. It really does feel surreal, even though it's so real.
And there was another reunion, a Salvation Army commissioner Reagan used to work for.
Tammy worked for my wife and I at our Salvation Army summer camp in Pennsylvania. It's great to have, this kind of support during this time of the year.
Jingle belling through the city, Hank got a lot of attention. A horse just walking down the sidewalk in Times Square.
This is unbelievable.
For a former employee of Reagan's, seeing the dream turn reality.
To see it actually happening 4 to 5 years later is just unbelievable for me.
Standing 17 hands high with his larger-than-life personality, it's only fitting that he brought a giant-sized check of $5,000 for the Giant Red Kettle.
It was the first donation to the Giant Red Kettle, honoring a rich history for Reagan's family.
My grandmother was in the Salvation Army. My dad was in the Salvation Army. I grew up in the Salvation Army.
And Tuesday's fanfare bringing some of Hank's biggest fans from Kentucky to the Big Apple.
I got to meet Hank last year on Giving Tuesday. I love following his journey on the way here. He's so calm around all of the people, all of the noises.
He's just living his best life.
Hank and Reagan's accomplishment not lost in the excitement.
I know my dad is fist pumping from heaven. If he were standing right here beside me, he would be doing the same thing. And he would say, "You've done good, Tammy Jo. I'm so proud."
A proud moment for Jensen Sullivan, who works for Reagan.
10 months ago, she invited me into the stream with Hank in New York when we got the news he'd be coming. So to be here with her, I feel an overwhelming sense of pride for her. She's worked tremendously hard with Hank. They've been an incredible inspiration to me throughout the years.
A humble but historic journey for the former abused, neglected horse turned ambassador for goodwill as Hank continues his mission to help others.
In the meantime, the charitable horse hopes you'll find it in your heart to give this holiday season. Reporting in Times Square, New York, I'm Erica Bivens, ABC36 News.
There's something about the visual of Hank just, this giant horse just walking down Times Square.
Well, yeah, and having lived there not far from it, I was just going to say, it's always hustle and bustle. I mean, especially during the holiday season. But, we saw it firsthand when he was here in the studio that he can handle about anything. So I wasn't worried about that. But trust me, you see everything in Times Square, even that. So it's really, really a good story.
Right. Well, as far as that $5,000 donation that Hank brought, the money came from Devin and Ruth Warrenker.
And you can donate to Hank's virtual red kettle. We've got a link in our web story at WTVQ.com.